Mishikoff, it's a pleasure always to welcome you back to this microphone.
Thank you, Les.
I wonder if I might break a little news. I've just learned that you are going to be receiving an honorary degree. I hope I'm not premature if I say something about it now.
No, I think it's nice to let people know.
This is
I just got a letter
of,
from the
Doctor of Laws.
Yes, the Eastern Michigan University. Dr. Spamberg wrote me this letter on behalf of the faculty and the Board of Regents of Eastern Michigan University. I have the pleasure to inform you that you have been chosen to receive the degree of Doctor of Laws on June 11th.
That's a great honor. It must be a great thrill to receive an honorary degree.
Well, I have never experienced that.
What, as a matter of fact, are your academic credits?
Well, I am a graduate of the Imperial Conservatory of Music in St. Petersburg, Russia. And I received the diploma of free artist, they call it, laureate. I don't know how you pronounce it. L-A-U.
Laureate.
Yes.
Laureate. Mm-hmm.
And I was a professor of the conservatory in Russia also, at the ripe age of 20.
As a very young man. As a matter of fact, in looking at the notes for the program this week, of course, we're all aware that Misha Mishikoff has been called the world's greatest concertmaster, and that you have been running the strings for some of the great conductors and the great orchestras for a long time, but I didn't realize it had been a full half-century.
Yes.
And
I started when I was about 19 years old.
And the program notes, too, that you have not missed a performance.
Yes, I may have missed in Detroit a couple of rehearsals. One rehearsal I missed because a pupil of mine was getting married. He was studying at the University of Indiana, and he asked me to come to his wedding, and I asked Mr. Paré if he would let me off that day. He said, "Certainement, Mishikoff, you never missed a rehearsal."
Well, this kind of an attendance record is a tribute not only to character and willpower, but to good health.
I think so. I have good inheritance. My father was 101 years old when he died. And all my brothers lived to the ripe age of 85, 90 years old.
Speaking of pupils, you have always dedicated yourself to teaching young violinists, and I understand that things are reaching a state now where you're leaving us a legacy of concert masters. There are young former pupils of yours in some of the major orchestras around the country.
I have quite a few. The Boston Symphony's concertmaster, the Pittsburgh Symphony, concertmaster, the Chicago, the Buffalo Symphony. This young man, who is the concertmaster of the Buffalo Symphony, Isidor Zaslav, he's a Detroiter. He just was engaged to be the concertmaster of the Minneapolis Symphony, which is a great honor, I think, for the young man. He's only 28.
That is...
And he was a member of our orchestra for quite a few years.
Mm-hmm. That is young for a concertmaster, and there seem to be more and more young concertmasters.
Yes, the Boston Symphony's concertmaster about 31, 32 maybe. Isidor Zaslav is 28, and the Philadelphia Orchestra concertmaster is also a young man in his early 30s. But I was concertmaster when I was 20.
Amazing.
I was 21 when I became concertmaster of the New York Symphony.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, I was concertmaster in Russia.
We have been talking about the future happy prospects of the Detroit Symphony now that the new contract is wrapped up and resolved to the satisfaction of everyone, and we can look forward now to the accomplishment of some serious goals. Most immediately ahead, as we look to the end of this season, is the Meadowbrook Festival. You will be with us at Meadowbrook.
Yes, and And I think that the Meadowbrook Festival put our orchestra on a firm basis. Without the Meadowbrook Festival, I think it would take us a long, long time to achieve a 48-week season, which we are going to have now, thanks to the Meadowbrook. 8 weeks. We are in Meadowbrook at 8 weeks at full salary, full winter salary.
Now, this is really basic to the problem of creating a livable environment for a professional musician, year-round work at an adequate wage and with good conditions.
We are very, very happy that the contract was signed, and I wish the public to know that there really was no disagreement between the board of directors of the Detroit Symphony and the Detroit Symphony man as far as finances were concerned. It was just a disagreement about working conditions, which were ironed out now.
And I think everybody is
we are all
delighted that
happy,
they have been ironed out. Looking even beyond Meadowbrook, the programs for next season have been announced, and it was interesting to me that Mr. Mishikoff had, before we began this conversation, had noted the number of works that he has never played before and will be new to him. And when you consider that Mr. Mishikoff has been playing orchestral works for 50 years, how many are there? Looks
11, 12, 13.
I was going to say roughly a dozen.
13 major works. It's about the same amount as this past season, which we are just finishing now. We also have 13 symphonies, I believe, modern symphonies, besides the shorter compositions.
Now, a solo artist might work on one or two new major works in the course of a year and feel that he was accomplishing something and adding to his repertory. It must be a great effort to tackle as many new works. At the same time, challenging, I would think.
Well, it's challenging and stimulating and gratifying for me, especially because for many years, when I took the position in Detroit, we played very few modern compositions. In fact, I played more modern music in summer in Chautauqua, New York, where we had only 6 weeks season. And I felt that I missed that. And I think that the public in Detroit also missed it. And now with Mr. Erling at the head of the orchestra, it's very gratifying to get acquainted with what modern composers write and to play it. It requires more work on my part because I have to look them over and mark them with bowings and fingerings so that the first rehearsal is not a mess. We sometimes, if it's not marked, we have to spend an awful lot of extra time in doing that work. So I do it at home, prepare it, and then the librarian copies it into the other parts. And that saves lots of rehearsal time.
It's clear that you're working just
and money, too.
It's clear that you're working as hard as you possibly could on a concert career. And I know that opportunity could have been yours. Why did you choose, although you do make periodic solo appearances, you have chosen to stay with the orchestras rather than go on your own? Why?
I think it's because I really love orchestra work. I love my playing as concertmeister. I think because a concertmeister is not just an orchestra player. He has to lead the largest section of the orchestra, the string section that comprises at least 2/3 of the orchestra. There are about 62 string players. And also, it's creative. I have to mark the parts, and I have to think of the best way of playing certain passages. That takes time and imagination, and it's very interesting. I love that work. I had a chance in my life, in my early days, to make a concert career when I won the Lewisohn Stadium Award in New York. I was then about 20 years old, and Mr. Judson, who was the biggest concert bureau agent, he offered a contract for me to concertize, but I preferred orchestra playing.
And
I also had many chances to conduct an orchestra, but I still preferred actual playing the violin more than conducting.
the concertmaster's job, then, is perhaps an ideal compromise of the things you most like to do, both to play and to lead.
Right.
And we're gratified that you have...
It gives me a chance to not only play in the orchestra, but to play solos and to lead a string quartet. And also, since I don't concertize, I don't move around the country, I have a chance to teach. And this is another field that I love. Teaching is my second love, I would say.
Well, it's gratifying to us that you have chosen to remain in the concertmaster's chair and to lend your teaching as well as playing talents to Detroit. As always, Mr. Mishakov, it's a delight to have you with us. Thank you for
Thank you, Les.
Our intermission guest has been Misha Mishakov, the Detroit Symphony's concertmaster and soloist with Mr. Ehrling in the orchestra this week. He will return to conclude the concert with the introduction and rondo capriccioso of Saint-Saëns.